It all started this spring, a season of new beginnings. I had just returned from the army, filled with a sense of accomplishment and a desire to build a new life. Military service instilled in me discipline and resilience, but it also left me longing for stability and a sense of belonging. The camaraderie and structured routine of military life had given me purpose, and now I was determined to channel those lessons into creating a meaningful future for myself. I found a job at a local auto repair shop, working long hours to avoid distractions and save money. I lived with my father, Michael, in a modest two-bedroom apartment. Life presented us with its challenges. My mother had left the family when I was still in high school, choosing someone else over us. My father, Michael Adams, was a resilient man. Although he couldn't stay single for long, he never got into a serious relationship. He was in his early 50s, a hard-working supervisor at a construction company, and always busy with work and responsibilities. Then, out of the blue, he let out a bombshell that changed everything. Michael announced that he was getting married. He brought Emma home and introduced her as his future wife. I was stunned, to say the least. Emma was nothing like I had imagined. She was only 27 years old and stunningly beautiful, tall and slender, with a cascade of dark hair and captivating brown eyes. Beyond her looks, Emma exuded confidence and charm, possessing a quick wit and a warm smile that could disarm anyone. She worked her way up to a management position, demonstrating ambition and resilience. Her stories of overcoming challenges at work and dreams for the future painted a picture of a woman not only beautiful but also determined and complex. She worked as a manager in a reputable company, always impeccably dressed in fancy outfits and high heels. At 22, I was embarrassed by the fact that she was only 5 years older than me. I was probably 22 at least. At 22, I was calling her mom or even stepmom seemed ridiculous, so I decided to address her by her first name. My father, however, seemed completely enamored. He radiated happiness and looked many years younger. He showered Emma with gifts, a new car, lavish vacations, and exquisite jewelry. The transition was awkward at first. Emma was a stranger in our home, with her own habits and preferences. However, she made a sincere effort to make me feel comfortable. She cooked delicious meals, took an interest in my likes and dislikes, and treated me with kindness. At first, I sought refuge in work or spending time with friends, avoiding frequent stays at home. But gradually I began to adjust. Emma proved to be a warm, sociable person. She could lighten the mood with a joke and give sound advice. When my father was working late, Emma and I would sometimes find ourselves in the kitchen together, drinking tea and chatting. These conversations often began casually, discussing work or dinner plans, but gradually they became more and more personal. She asked about my military service, genuinely interested in the challenges I faced and the lessons I learned. I, in turn, learned about her upbringing, career challenges, and dreams for the future. She shared anecdotes about her childhood, moments of vulnerability related to the pressures of her job, and even light-hearted stories about her friends. These moments made our connection seem natural, as if two people had suddenly found common ground. She took an interest in my life, listened attentively to my stories about the Army, and shared snippets of her own experiences. It was at moments like these that I began to pay attention to her. The way she moved around the apartment in casual clothes, the way she tied her hair in a ponytail when she cooked, the subtle sparkle in her eyes when she laughed. I tried to banish these thoughts by reminding myself that she was my father's wife. However, suppressing these feelings was harder than I had anticipated. My father's job required frequent travel due to a significant contract in a neighboring region. As a result, Emma and I were often alone together. It was uncomfortable at first, but over time we adjusted. We shared dinners, watched movies together in the evenings, and bonded over little things. From time to time, Emma would ask me for help with computer or car problems, and I was always willing to help. The turning point came one evening. My father was away on a week-long business trip, and I came home late after a particularly busy day at work. To my surprise, Emma was waiting for me in the kitchen with dinner. She hadn't eaten, having decided to wait until I returned. The expression on her face was grim, and I didn't immediately understand why. She was arguing with my father on the phone. He had extended his trip again, and she felt abandoned and frustrated. She went upstairs and cried a bit in her room, and then came down to the table. We stayed up late that night. Emma talked about her life, sharing her problems and the loneliness she often felt when my father was away. I listened intently, not knowing what to say, but wanting to comfort. Her vulnerability touched me. When she burst into tears, I instinctively hugged her, hoping to comfort her. That hug marked the beginning of what we both knew was forbidden. The next morning was fraught with awkwardness. We both decided that we would treat what had happened as a bad dream to be buried and forgotten. But forgetting was impossible. 3 days later, my father returned, enthusiastic about his work and with gifts for everyone. At the dinner table, he talked excitedly about his plans for the future, while Emma and I sat in silence, avoiding each other's gaze and carrying the weight of our shared secret. Realizing the unacceptability of the situation, I decided it was time to move out. I found a small apartment and began the moving process, packing one box at a time. When I told my father about my decision, he was supportive and even pleased, noting that a young family like his needed space to thrive. Now I live alone. Once a week I visit my father for Sunday lunches. These sit-downs are both comforting and agonizing. My father glows with happiness. Emma plays the role of the perfect wife, and I sit there trying to hide my inner turmoil. I met a wonderful girl named Sarah, kind and sincere. She's already talking about marriage, and part of me hopes that meeting her will help me move on and lead a simpler life without complications. I'm very lucky. Sometimes the best thing that can happen to you is to meet someone like Sarah. Yet every time I cross the threshold of my father's house and meet Emma's gaze, my resolve wavers. Her gaze stirs something deep inside me, a storm of emotions I can't control. Life, as I've learned in time, is rarely simple. It twists and turns in unexpected ways, defying the rules we try to live by. It's not just terrible worry. Life, as I've learned in time, is rarely simple. It twists and turns in unexpected ways, defying the rules we try to live by.